Here we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Torch Snuffers. I am your host, Colin Connors. With me, as always, is my wonderful co-host / Latino beauty, Alicia Garza.
Hello.
Also joining us today, the very brilliant Alex Cash.
Hey.
The always insightful Stephen Lehman.
Hey.
The man from the dark, Prince Ty.
Good evening.
That girl from Canada, Elise Anderson.
Hi.
And, of course, from Survivor Cook Islands, the wonderful Billy Garcia. And, Ben, I left you out on purpose. And Ben touched off. So, I just want to say, for all the viewers out there, this is a pretty packed house. Normally, we don't have this many people on, but because we like to do something special for the premiere and the finale, we got everyone on. Throughout the seasons, there'll be more of a bridge panel. But anyways, we have so much to talk about. Oh gosh, Ben has left. I think he's gonna come back though. I was only doing that because you're in your kitchen. Someone to text me telling that.
You left him out, Colin. It's all your fault.
There we go.
There you go. Ben's coming back. Ben, I only let you out because you weren't paying attention. You're in the kitchen. Say a quick hi, then we're gonna jump right into it.
Now I'm going to make a very long and gracious hello to all the viewers out there and hold you up. So my name is Ben, and I am.
I'm gonna have to mute Ben. Okay, so Billy, I wanted to start this by talking to you. So unlike us, you've actually played this before, and I want you to put us in that mindset of when you're first walking onto the beach. Like, what are you thinking about? Are you already like, oh my God, it's super hot? Just tell me what's going on. How are these survivors feeling?
Okay, everybody has a different reaction, as you might expect, but actually, I started on a boat, which was very different. We were half the cast was bent over the bow, puking from the long trip on a sail ship, which it did a lot of up and down with every wave, and so we basically got stirred up before we actually got to play. I don't know if these players got stirred up or not. But once you see the cameras and stuff, it's literally like the only thing that went through my mind is, I'm a survivor! Like that was it.
And so I feel like that's a pretty common reaction. I think that we got that from both the Millennials and the Gen Xers. So, but do you have like, what I've always wondered is, when you first step off the boat and it's already super hot and you're already starting to get wet, are you already having feelings like, oh my God, this is like for real? Or are you so euphoric that you don't really notice?
Well, the first thing you notice is that everything is like completely soaked. It's like you're soaked, the person next to you is soaked, the mat you're standing on is soaked, the ground beneath the mat is soaked. Even Jeff Probst, even though he doesn't look like it in the TV, he's soaking wet. It's like everything is completely wet. And it's not like a fun wet, like a swimming pool wet. It's like salt water wet. So it's like with every little fidget you do, it's like you're grinding the salt water into your skin. And so it's not like a fun wet. It's like I'm glad I shaved down there kind of wet.
And that's great fun. All the innuendos, not a fun wet. That might be the name of our episode, not a fun wet. So, Stephen, I am going to jump to you real quick because something that we often judge a Survivor nerds a season on when it comes to editing is who gets opening confessionals. And we got some from Zeke, Taylor, David, Chris, Sunday, and a few others. Do you think the editors have wised up and not put a winner in the opening confessional, or is one of those people going to win this game?
I mean, I don't necessarily think that, at least in this instance, that a winner is or isn't going to get an opening confessional because of past seasons. In terms of whether or not I think any of the people in the opening credits, like the opening moments, are winners, I don't know. I think those are the people they wanted to showcase because those were the ones who they I guess thought represented their tribes best, because they really want to sell this theme of Millennials versus Gen X. So of course they're going to pick, Taylor, the sort of Peter Pan character. They're going to pick Mari, the gamer, versus, say, Gen Xers, who Sunday the pastor. That's great, by the way, Sunday the pastor. And
Chris as well. So, and Ty, I want to jump to you because you kind of have a tiny bit of egg on your face, but also you're kind of vindicated because during our preseason stuff, you talked about how David doesn't have much of a story. And then this episode, it looked like, oh, David, he could get the boot. But he was given an opening confessional, and he was giving a lot of screen time. Does his story actually have legs, or is he still out 2 episodes from now?
I honestly have no idea. I am completely confused. I'm glad he got time because I thought he could be interesting, and he's well spoken to that end. I was happy to see that he survived over Rachel, who I found far more boring. But
I liked her.
I feel like he needs a swap quickly. If he does not have a swap within
Or a heart attack.
2 rounds, which I feel like they could do a swap at like 18, then he's screwed. But I could see the swap happening and him having really long legs for escaping that drive.
And Elise, you want to jump in on that? Because I think he would do good with Millennials.
Billy just posted in the chat what I was gonna say, that I see him kind of getting like the Varner. He gets a lot of screen time at the beginning, and his story is being kind of told through the pre-merge, and then he like flops early.
So Billy, you don't have any hope for David?
Nah, that dude is like so jumpy. He's so easily rattled. If it was just the case of he was the skinny small dude, he would recover from that. But that dude is so all over the place that like if another storm hits, I think he'll lose it. If they're starving for any length of time, I think he'll lose it over that as well. I know you guys were saying if there's some sort of swap that it might save him, I think he'll lose it over that. So I don't think there's anything that can save this guy. I think he's a walking disaster.
So Billy, what you're saying to me is he's not going to be your winner pick tonight. You don't see any hope. You think he's out. You think 3 episodes from now, when we finally get Sandra on the show, we're going to be talking about how much David sucks?
Go ahead. I was just going to say, I think he's going to be a great character for the little time that he's there.
Alicia, then we're going to jump to Alicia, then we're going to move on to some stuff.
Okay, so Jeff Probst tweeted about David. How can you not root for him? Come on, there's so many of us doubting if we can do it, but wanting to see. So Jeff likes the story. He feels like maybe there's a little underdogness going on and that we see ourselves in him, which I totally did because I would rather like leave the
Okay, Alicia, I'm going to have to cut you off because you are hiccuping pretty bad in and out. So, and Alicia's response was, damn, what's that spirit? We're going to jump to Alicia real quick. And now Alicia's frozen in time.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I see a big difference between David and like the kind of edit we got for Suri. Because Suri started out Exile Island, if you remember, being like, I'm afraid of leaves, blah, blah, blah. But then she has like this amazing social game. She's very strategic. All we saw of David was him not only being afraid of everything, but then he's isolating himself. He's obviously looking for idols, and the only thing we've heard about his gameplay is he says he's great at gameplay, but we have nothing to go on yet.
I think it's easy, and especially people watching the Australian Survivor, it's really easy for people to go, oh, I'm good at the strategy of Survivor, and then completely mess it up.
Yeah. Exactly. I think we need to see more before we're like, oh, he's actually going to make it far and be this mastermind. Yeah. Like, even Suri had a lot to going for her in the first episode of Exile Island.
And then, I mean, he was hunting for the idol in plain sight. That's embarrassingly bad gameplay.
He's a stupid ass, to quote Sandra.
Thank you. All right. So, Alex, I'm going to jump to you. We haven't spoken. How are you doing tonight? You doing good? All right. So, throughout all of Survivor, we've had a whole bunch of different kind of interesting challenges at the beginning of the seasons. How much do you like or dislike this kind of new thing where it's just run out in the woods and along with like the options, pick which one you like?
Well, I mean, that goes all the way back to season 1 because, like, you pick the options you like off of the boat and then you jump off the boat. They just formalized the choice this time. And I rather liked the choice of having to go short-term, long-term, or mix of the two, one or the other. Because that's more interesting than just, everybody's running around and grabbing stuff.
Yeah. And Billy, like, what would you have done in this situation? Would you have done the fishing gear instead of the chickens? Because that seems like a pretty obvious choice.
You know what? I can tell you right now with the chickens, the whole but they lay egg strategy, I was in the game. Number one, they don't lay eggs. And number two, even if they did, what are you gonna do? Split one egg 10 ways?
That's what I was thinking.
What's the logic? Yeah, what's the logic behind they lay eggs? You're never gonna get enough eggs out of them. So you're either planning to eat them quick, within the first 10 days, and then say we're gonna have a tribe swap, so it won't matter, and that's why you would pick them, or you would say there's not gonna be a tribe swap, and you would pick the fishing gear.
Yeah.
So and that's what it boils down to.
I agree. And Ben, you want to chime in on this?
That's it. Like, we're thinking like long term. Oh, we have to make this last 39 days. No, you have to make this last probably like 8 or 9 days. And like, let's be honest. I think you can handle a couple chickens for 8 or 9 days on a stranded island.
I don't know. I think those chickens would run around too much, but that's just my kind of personal opinion.
That means more carbs, means more meat, which means that it's more food.
True. But, I mean, if you have someone like Tyler on your tribe, who knows exactly how that's going to work out, because Tyler doesn't seem too intelligent. And Alicia, you're a girl, so you probably love Tyler. Let's talk about why he's completely awful, and how come in the preseason stuff I said he was going to be awful.
Wait, is his name Tyler?
Oh, Taylor.
Yes.
My bad.
And more importantly,
Tails. Gotta go fast.
He's Tails.
Is it clear?
Now I'm on my podcast.
What?
I got this.
Okay.
Okay, I'm a mess tonight. Sorry.
Cool.
It's okay. I don't know the names of the players, and I'm hosting this thing. Alicia, let's talk about them.
You hear me?
Taylor. Yes, you're fine.
Ah, okay, cool. Yay, this is the best. So Taylor has giant blue eyes and.
Okay, if that's all you're gonna say, we are gonna move on.
I don't know. Like, I don't really understand the question. Like, he's okay. Like, he's there.
Okay, but let's
Taylor
talk.
reminds me of remember
ahead,
the beginning of Panthers' Favorites 2, I believe it was, with like the douchebags who later joined Malcolm, whatever their names were, and I love them because I love my like douchebags. So.
Well, it's true because there's the 3 amigos, and now it's the Triforce.
I love that name.
Has
So
the Triforce not been used
It sounds like
yet
a
as
bad
tribe
martial
name?
arts movie.
yeah, exactly, Billy. It does sound like a bad martial arts movie. Ty, I'm going to talk to you about the Triforce. Why is it these people that have been playing or have been watching this show for so long still have these alliances in plain sight like that? Why can't they get over this?
Because they're dumb. And that's why, I mean, they are there to be dumb. I mean,
Let's be honest, most
when you
of
see
these
somebody
people
like
haven't seen
Taylor.
all seasons of Survivor.
Exactly. Elise makes that good point. They see Taylor, they see his big, handsome man. They know he's a little bit dumb, and they see hilarity ensuing, and hilarity is already ensuing because they're trapped. They're trapped, and it's fun.
Thank you. All right, Alex, then we're going to jump to Billy real quick.
All right. The thing is that you can get a couple of assurances from people that you have 2 extra people in your alliance, so you think you have a majority, but you don't really. You can be friendly to everybody, but especially friendly towards a few people and still be in the open and not realize it. It's a lot more subtle than the edit points out, probably, but I choose not to believe that in this instance because these seem like the kind of people who would be dumb enough to do that.
Yep. And that's a very fair point. We do have to look at the edit, but I mean, the 3 of them were in a grouping like, hey, I love you, you're so great. And Hannah was just like right next to them like.
That's a name in front of her.
Yeah, like,
Way to go, Triforce.
Editing.
All right, Billy, go ahead.
Yeah, I just think that Tails is Fabio Part Dukes. I think he's the same player in a different body, in a different, a brand new version of the same type of player, where he's basically getting by on his looks, and people will drag him along because he's a blithering idiot and he's not very threatening. But with the dynamics of the freaks and geeks having the majority, I think in this case, unless it's a tribe swap, I see the Fabio Part Dukes not doing so well in this. I expect him to flop.
And I would agree with that. At least you want to jump in before we move on.
And I think, unfortunately, this looks the worst for Figgy because usually in these kind of situations, they're like, oh, well, the guys, we hate them the most, but we can use them in challenges and we need challenge strength or whatever. And then we'll be like, oh, well, then we'll just vote out Figgy. So I think that's a really bad spot for her to be.
But at least, why isn't Michelle in that exact same spot? Is it because Michelle on the outs doesn't look as close to them? Or do you think Michelle will be able to...
I could see Michelle being in the exact same spot, but she seems, at the moment, she's not as in that, like, tight Triforce thing. Like, she's kind of like the odd fourth.
Okay. So, Steven, I want to talk...
Associate.
Yeah, but that's a good position for her because she could theoretically jump in. But Steven, I want to talk with you about Zeke because when he first appeared in this episode, he billed himself as like the anti-millennial, like, oh, these kids don't have jobs, these kids all suck, and that was raising these giant red flags for me. But then, much like David, we start to see a lot more of him, but we see a lot more of him in a very positive way. What is this speaking to of Zeke's long-term game? And does the fact that he is considered a leader going to hurt him with this group, or do you think he might actually have some legs?
I think in terms of what it speaks to long-term, I think Zeke definitely has legs. I think he's someone who I think has been featured a pretty good amount. So unless it's a Varner situation where he's, in and out in, say, 4 episodes, I'd say Zeke does have long legs. In terms of leadership, though, I think while it would hurt a lot of people, I don't think it would hurt him because I think he's sort of the type of person who's able to gel with a good amount of people.
Yeah. All right. And now we're going to jump to Alicia. Alicia, you seem itching to talk about this man, this flower-dressed man.
Yeah. So, I don't know. When he first was like, oh, I don't like these people, like, I don't like millennials, I just thought, wow, not adaptable to, like, the people that he's with socially, like, not willing to open himself up. So I thought that kind of spelled, like, not long for this game. But then he, like, was like, oh, I've already grown so much. But so now I feel like his story arc is over and we can just move on. Because, like, great, he, like, learned something next week.
And then he gets the heart attack. That would be a good plot twist. Billy, you want to make a quick comment?
Yeah, I think he's there because of his shirt.
Is that why you got on? Because of your shirt?
Something like that. But I'm going to call gimmick infringement right off the bat. And,
don't forget the stash.
The New Yorker, he's from Brooklyn. The New Yorker who's a little chubby and has this shirt that he's going to be remembered for. Geez, where did we see that before?
Wait, Zeke's from Brooklyn?
Yeah, he's from Brooklyn. We got it.
That's cool.
We gotta track him down.
Random side question: does Debbie live in New York by chance? From
this isn't
like
about
the
Debbie.
model / water thing.
Okay,
I thought I saw her running in Central Park, but maybe it wasn't her. But
she's from Reading, Pennsylvania.
Ty, you are, with the way you build yourself in orgs, as a villain. So naturally, I'm going to talk with you about Gen X, the hero on that tribe. And that hero is actually going to be Ken. He was getting a pretty fantastic edit tonight. We saw him taking care of David. We saw him building the shelter. And a side note, I loved what we saw with Ken's shelter building because Ken said, I know how to build a shelter. And everyone else was like, oh, okay, I'm actually going to listen to you. Because most seasons, like, someone's like, I'm a professional builder. And everyone's like, well, I'm a banker. Here are my thoughts on how to build it. And I hate that. I love it when they just listen to the guy that knows how to build. This goes all the way back to Survivor China with Chicken, how no one listened to him about how to build a shelter when that is what he did for a living. Anyways, Ty, Ken, let's talk about him. Is he the Gen Xer that's going to rise above it, or is he going to get stabbed in the back at a swap? Where's he going? Because I think he's a hero.
I kind of agree with you. Like, I counterbalance him against Bret. When we did our intro thing last week and we were doing our draft, basically I looked at Bret as like kind of like a funny Tony, kind of like he was trying to go for that and that sort of thing. And instead he was kind of like the soulless, like, game bot of the tribe this episode, like, we have the numbers, we're going to split. That was his edit. Whereas Ken was like talking, Ken, who, all I know is that he, knocked a woman up and now has a child randomly, is essentially, coming up with these like wise axioms about like how we shouldn't overestimate them just because they're young and all that sort of business. Exactly. I could see him suddenly having legs because he's certainly going to be one of the stronger competitors. He's, built pretty well. He's also, I think, the youngest of them. And he's generally like go with the flow, can stick out less than like the
I don't see how he doesn't make merge. And does anyone else want to comment on Ken? Because if anyone is getting a winner's edit, which it's really hard to think of something like that with this group of characters, I think it could be Ken. But maybe it's too early to tell. Who wants to comment on that? I throw out the winner's edit. That's always controversial.
You know what? Speaking of Ken, I don't know about winner's edit. but definitely he came out as very likable and somebody that could flow with either tribe. So even if there's a tribe swap, he won't be like the old man of the tribe that is the easy vote out if they lose. So he's on that what do you call it, that the gray area where he fits in with either. And then he's also good looking. So, you know,
that he is.
When it comes to Survivor, let's be honest, it helps to be good looking in that people just automatically assume you're trustworthy if you're good looking. I never understood that, but that's a Survivor thing, you know?
I mean, I feel like it's a people thing too. Good looking people typically have easier lives. So we've discussed kin to death. We do got to talk about a couple other of Gen Xers. And Ty already talked to you, so I'm actually going to jump to Ben. Ben, you were not part of our preseason draft, but one of the things we talked about was Jessica. We all thought she had the potential to go far, but we also thought she wouldn't get any screen time. Not only did she get a lot of screen time, but she also has the envelope twist. So let's talk about her at it, and then let's talk about the twist with everybody else.
I mean, is it any indication that I just had to look at the cast page to remember who she was? Or is that
I still don't know who she is. Is she the pink eye one?
She's pink eye.
Okay.
She's the one that got the twist. Mm-hmm. Which I think is.
But she's so boring, but she's getting all this time.
Colin, I've had 7 words on this podcast.
Come on.
So I'm actually really excited. Like, I'm really excited about the prospect of her having the initial twist, because I feel like she's one of the people that is going to be the most able to use it, if that makes sense. Because I feel like a lot of these cast members be like, oh, I got this envelope and I'm going to get all the friends because I got the envelope. And I don't know what that
I don't know what that was.
That was like a Lenny from Mice and Men.
Yeah, but I'm like really excited because like this twist has given her an identity when I think that we would not have remembered her at all, and now she's the one that is bearer of this season's.
I guess what I would say, talking to you, Ben, is that I agree with you. She is so dull, but yet she is getting tons of screen time. Now, is that only because of the twist, or is it because, you know, something interesting happens, or with her?
I have faith that she's gonna, like, my personal thoughts was that she was gonna do well because she seemed to have some of the more developed or intelligent confessionals this episode. Like, I feel like they presented her enough, and it wasn't in the context of the twist. So I feel like they're giving her long legs for the sake of her having long legs, and not for the sake of holding an envelope for 12 days and then passing it off. And
that's what I would agree with. Now, Alex, I want to talk with you because when this twist first happened, I said I don't like it, and then Alex, you said you do like it. So you get the first word on this new twist in the game.
Yeah. So I kind of suspect that all the advantage or whatever it is going to be is just going to be like a challenge advantage on day 36, because the past few seasons, day 36 has been the final reward, which is an advantage in the next immunity. But the thing that I like about this twist is that it does throw in some strategic wrinkles, similar to the black vote kind of thing that we've discussed as a possible twist, but it's different than that, because number one, if somebody knows that somebody else has the envelope, then they have to be nice to everybody, just in case that person on their way out decides to give the envelope to them. And second of all, and this is more likely, if you do have the envelope, then you can sort of brandish that as just a way of, you know, if you do it with enough tact,
that's what I say, because
essentially ensure that people don't betray you, because then people will think, well, if I stab her in the back too hard, she's not going to give me that envelope, and I want that envelope.
Well, I mean, but also, though, if you have the envelope, maybe they think, hey, let's blindside her, and maybe she'll give the envelope to me because she won't know I did it. Ben, you wanted to jump in real quick?
Well, and then they specify, and, like, when she presented, like, the confessional and when she read it, did they mention that it had to be gifted, like, immediately in front of everyone? Because when
it says if you get voted out, okay,
you must gift it to a person. But is the gifting public? Because I
Probably
interpret
secret.
it as it's not. Like, only this person is aware of its existence, and they are gifting it to another person who is now going to learn of its existence.
I was thinking, though, logistically, though, how did they do that? Like, you got voted off, and then you gave the envelope to Probst, and then he gave it to someone else. Billy, what are your thoughts on this? And then I'm going to jump to Alicia.
Yeah, they said somebody inherits it. That was the official. That was the lingo, the language that they used, the jargon. So that means you get voted out, and once you're out, that's when you hand it to production. That's what I think, and then the production gives it to the inheritor. But what I think that advantage is going to be is probably going to be like you steal a vote or something like that. That's what they
day 36 though.
That's exactly. That's a guarantee to the final three.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I think it'll be, or that you get to add a vote. So if it's 2-2, you basically decide the outcome of the final three.
That's interesting, and I would actually like that a little bit more than the reward challenge advantage, because the advantage either gives the person immunity, like with Mike, or it's a total flop, like with Malcolm. And I just don't really like.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's day 36, so it's the final five. So even if you steal a vote, it still might not help you, but it'd still be interesting.
And that's true. Okay, and then Alicia, you're next.
So the exact wording on it was that it gets willed to someone else if you're voted out. So that made me think that you had to have like written it down before you're voted out, and like maybe it's like a will where you can kind of change it as you go along as you're playing the game. What?
I'm just saying, I was making a joke. Like, I bequeath this extra vote to Ty.
Oh, okay. Anyway, so that makes me think, like, if that's how it is, that you have to kind of determine it ahead of time, you can use it by being like, hey, if you vote me out, like, guess what? I have it willed to, like, your biggest enemy right now. So, like, don't cross me or you're going to get fucked. Like,
that's an interesting way to play it. But I actually think because Jessica's kind of boring, what if she just doesn't fucking tell anybody? Because like we've had like a lot of these twists with like the extra votes and this feeling of the votes.
That's what I would do.
Not really doing it. Yeah, and I mean I would too. I mean I would like mouth, so it would come out eventually, but I would try to keep it a secret. Elise, go ahead.
I think the move is to try and keep it close to your chest as long as possible, but if you get into a stuck situation, why not go for it? Like, if you feel like you're on the outs, you're in a bad position at, like, swap, then I think that's when you reveal it, or, like, at merge, that's when you start using this to your advantage. Right now, there's absolutely no reason for her to tell anyone, especially since no one knows she has it, or it even exists.
And Billy just gave you a good +1 on that bingo. And that's the thing is, I could honestly, and we don't care about Big Brother, Alex, I could honestly see this twist turning into a big nothing. But we'll see. Ben, real quick on you, and then we're going to move on.
It doesn't disclose what the twist is either. So, like, you can hold it close, like, you really have to hold it close to your chest and try to make it to, honestly, to the final six. Because what are you going to do? Hi, I'm going to be voted out tonight. I have this envelope. When I don't know the power of the envelope, but I have an envelope, and I'm going to give it to somebody that you can vote out at the next round, and then they can give it to someone else.
It would be better if the envelope was, like, written in crayon and it looked all fake and stuff. So everyone's like, did he just make a random note? A sheet? Like it was like a chart, like a cold lettering. All right, Ty, I haven't heard from you in a while. So we spent a good portion of this episode talking about the weather. And I talked about this preseason. Now that it's happened, does the weather actually have any impact on the rest of this game? Or
I don't feel like it will more than anything else. I feel like it's a thing that happened. It was a big first thing. Adam got to have a confessional about how it was unprecedented and sounded like he was like one of the production members because he kept saying we as opposed to this, which I found interesting. But I don't know. I feel like it's going to be a shitty weather season for them. I don't think it's going to be as bad as this again. I don't think they're going to get evacuated again. It was a nifty thing for them to have, and they mentioned it. I didn't think much of it one way or the other, to be honest.
And Billy, I have a question for you, and I want to know if you could shed some light on this. Where do you think they went during this sequester? Did they go back to Ponderosa? Do you think they separated everybody by tribes and were like, hey, don't talk to anybody? What do you think they did with the survivors themselves? Because, I mean, it's not like they can send them back to America for a day. Like, where do they go, and what do they do, and what do you think the rules were of the sequester?
Yeah, they were probably on gag order, which is when you're not allowed to speak to one another. That happens when a lot in the game, actually. Like when there's a switch out of the production team because they work 12-hour shifts. You're on gag order until the switch is done. When you're standing on the mat waiting for all the camera crew to set up the shot for Jeff Probst to do his spiel, you're on gag order. Even though I broke that gag order, by the way, in my infamous moment. But yeah, we're not supposed to speak. So I think they went to the Ponderosa and we're on gag order for the night.
And do you think they were given any food or anything, or do you think they were just like put in a room, the kitchen was locked, and they're like, "Stay here, Zeke. Don't you move, kid."
Yeah, I think they were given food because the first thing they did was hit the ground running, which meant they had energy. So yeah, I think they were probably given minimal food, like the outcasts in Pearl Island, but I still think they were given food.
And I wonder if they had air conditioning. Elise, you wanted to comment real quick?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I know there was a little bit of preseason talking about how for the first time ever people are getting evacuated. And I just want to say I'm so thankful that it happened like day 2 because this could have been a huge deal if it was like day 25. But on day 2, it's kind of just like takes people out, come back. It's not a big deal. It's just a reset a day later.
And then Ben, you want to make a quick comment on this before we moved on?
Because that was like the reason why I actually appreciated that it was included, other than the fact that they had to acknowledge it, was the fact that I had even though that like production has said like if things get legitimately dangerous, we will remove them to safety. We've never actually seen that in practice. So I've always been concerned, are they going to actually do it, or like at what level does it happen? And to actually see it in practice made me like be able to feel more comfortable watching it a little bit. Like it gave me like more confidence that this isn't just a stupid show that's on.
Yeah, we're not just like putting people out there. Hey, we're not like the French version where someone's gonna die during the first challenge. Because this is America, all right? And we do what we can.
They had a heart attack.
They had a heart attack. Speaking of heart attacks, that might happen next episode, so we're going to talk about that. Okay, Alicia, we haven't talked in a bit, but I just wanted to say, how funny was it that they acknowledged, they were like saying, oh, this is the worst shelter we have ever built, the Millennials in Survivor history, with forgetting about Rupert's shelter and All Stars. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Alex, oh my God, Alicia doesn't know what we're talking about. Alex,
like so when the shelter collapsed and then they just dug underneath the shelter and hid. What the hell?
Okay, so Billy, you would
water
take
collects there.
I remember there being a shelter that was like built on this like really sandy, rocky stuff, and like crabs were crawling all over. So that was pretty bad. But
Billy, you said you would actually take Rupert's shelter over the Millennial shelter. Real quick, you gotta give me some justification on that.
Yeah, because Rupert's shelter, at least the roof wasn't terrible. It was, the roof was great. It was just he built a subterranean shelter. It was just a silly idea with roots going across the shelter. But the Millennials, they went out swimming and had fun, and that was their shelter.
Yeah,
that was
bizarre.
So Millennials, we haven't actually had a chance to speak about her. Ty, let's talk with you. I haven't talked to you a little bit. Let's talk about Hannah and Hannah's kind of, quirkiness. And is that going to be a huge factor, or is that just day one shenanigans, or is she just going to be, an accomplice? Where do you think she's going? And full disclosure, I am now in love with Hannah. She's now my favorite person ever.
I feel like Hannah is going to be a very effective second fiddle to Mary. I feel like Mary is like Queen Amy.
Yes.
Like from Vanuatu. I feel like that's the vibe that I'm getting from her at this point. She's going to run this Freaks and Geeks Alliance. She is going to dominate all of the confessionals. She will be the one who was brought back for All Stars, yada, yada, yada. But I think Hannah
will be back for All Stars as well, in my mind.
I hope so, because you love her, apparently, as of us now. And I have no ability to banter back on that because it surprised me. But anyway, I feel like she will overall be like an effective role. Like, let's put it this way. She was able to like nerd her way into a kind of semi-agreement with the super religious girl,
Michelle,
as opposed to Feggy, who was probably dead first because her name is ridiculous. And, because of that, they were comfortable sitting around in front of her, and she was able to go scurry back. And instead of getting the blood on her hands, she hands it off to Mary. How's
exactly.
Exactly. I mean, right, Mari. Exactly. And Mari does big Mari things because that is what Mari's going to do this season. And quite frankly, it makes me slightly erect that I'm going to get to watch that over and over and over again. But anyway, to that end, I rambled on a bit too long. Hannah's in a good spot.
No, but see,
Hannah's in a good spot.
Ty, I gotta say this. I was being kind of creepy with the Hannah stuff. Thank you for adding that, so I'm not the creepy one anymore. Billy, you said I should send Hannah on social media. Will that win her over? If I say, hey, you're my prize at Tribal Council when I get voted out, is that the trick?
Yeah, no, I don't think it'll work, but what the hell? At least you'll know who you are. She'll get to know your name if you write it down on her restraining order.
Yeah, exactly.
Very good. All right, but I will say this though. I think Ty kind of nailed the Hannah. I think has no problem playing second fiddle, and I think Maury has no problem being front. And I think if Maury gets to the end, she has a good shot to win. But I think she's going to have a huge target on her back going forward. Also, is there any reason, and anyone can chime on this, to suspect that if they go to Tribal Council of Millennials, that it's not going to be the Freaks versus the Geeks, and we're going to lose Figgy first? Or Michelle, does anyone have any reason not to believe that? Steven, go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say I think it has to be Figgy or Michelle. My money, if I had to pick one over the other, I would say Figgy goes just because she's been shown as like more in with the I'll call them Jailer, Jay and Taylor. She's more in with them than Michelle is. And Michelle at least has a connection with Hannah. We haven't seen any Figgy connections. Also, her name is Figgy. Your name is Jessica. That was your. It's not Figgy.
Yeah. All right, Elise, go ahead.
And also, I might be skipping ahead a bit, but in the preview for Figgy, she's like, "I'm so good at manipulating men, and unless you're Parvati, I feel like that's never worked out. Like that's usually the boot episode quote."
I don't think Zeke and Adam are able to be manipulated that easily. So it's like you can manipulate.
No, especially Adam, who's a big fan of the game. I don't think he's gonna
Yeah, Alex, you want to chime in real quick?
And then I'm gonna jump. Just me agreeing.
Okay. So Alicia, I want to ask you something. We were shown on the Gen X Tribe right before the vote that they were keeping Ken, Cece, David, and Rachel. I was thinking, all right, this is what Bret said, and I was like, why the hell did he say that? However, Ken did vote for Rachel. And David voted for Rachel as well. So they wound up back in the loop. Do you think Ken is actually outside of the majority? Thrown in there to maybe play out some dynamics? Because I'm like, where is Ken? Where is his alliance in this group?
I don't know. I actually thought that Ken and is Paul the old white guy?
Yeah, Paul voted for Rachel. I'm looking at the list right now. And Rachel.
Okay, that doesn't tell me who Paul is. That's fine.
Paul is
Was Paul the one that was had a hard on for the Gen Xers and their hard work and their upbringing? Okay, so I actually thought that Paul and Ken were going to kind of clash when they had that face-off. So I thought we were already going to kind of be set up for a Ken versus Paul kind of story, and maybe we still will later. But I think that. I don't know. I think that right now Ken is well liked, so I think he's probably in the loop, or if not in the loop, maybe he was accidentally in the loop because he voted for Rachel because she seemed like an obvious choice.
He just showed up at TC and was like, I have no idea what's going on. He's like, oh, cool, I guess no one did. Billy, you think you know?
Yeah, I think when that confessional was shot, that he was not in the loop, but it was so early in the day that a lot could have happened from the time when that confessional was shot to the time when they got to Tribal Council. So I think we didn't show us that he worked his way in because they're saving it for down the road when we get to see more of his game develop. But I think he's a shrewd guy. He sounded like a very smart guy that's very aware of his surroundings. So I think he kind of saw how people were breaking off, and he included himself.
And I think that's a very good point. And it's very possible that just because Bret says I'm not including him, it doesn't mean that, Paul doesn't really like Ken or we'll call it, but it doesn't mean like there's not a relationship that we don't see. Because I can see Chris and Kim getting along really well. Speaking of which, Chris is a lot less. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, furthermore, they didn't split the vote the way they said they were going to. It was CC that they split the vote with. So that tells me there was a lot that happened in between that confessional and the tribal council.
Now, Elise, why would they edit out putting CC's name? Because CC got very little screen time today, and it seemed like they were going to split between Rachel and David. But why was CC given the edit she was given?
Honestly, I'm not sure, because as soon as the vote started splitting CC versus Rachel, it's like, well, obviously Rachel's getting voted out because, like, CC, we have no reason to see why she would be voted out right now. And I'm not really sure. I think a lot of it is, like Billy said, where they just filmed that confessional early. I'm not sure why that's the one they chose to put into the show, because I feel like it'd make a lot more sense to have one later, but maybe he just had the best confessional, or everyone else got a cyclone in the background. I don't know.
So like,
we don't know what goes on there.
Steven, go ahead.
So there was a very quick Rachel confessional that I caught before Tribal, and Rachel said something, CC and I are on the chopping block. It was a very quick confessional, but it was one that was there nonetheless. The reason why I think they split between CC and Rachel is that I think they were concerned that CC was too close to Rachel, and they wanted to sort of break that up. Obviously, Rachel was the primary target, but I guess there was this idea, like, if CC left, like, not a big deal. That's why I'm thinking, but I think the reason why we didn't get shown more Susie is because maybe they wanted to shield her from the Rachel stuff, because Rachel was sort of edited as this ditz, and I wouldn't call her annoying personally, but she was definitely someone we were not supposed to sympathize
That's true. And maybe that's a good point. Also, I'm thinking maybe it's just sloppy editing. Maybe CC's the next boot, and it's just because, I mean, it's very possible. I mean, we were talking a lot about fans versus favorites too. That season had bad editing. It's very possible there's just a little bit of bad editing this season. Ben, go ahead, and then we're going to start to wrap things up a little bit.
I'm sorry if this was said already. I was too busy dealing with my stupid cat knocking wine over. Yeah, I'm talking to you.
Oh my gosh, that's tragic.
So I kind of think that next episode kind of like is kind of the crux that changes, like, is the unfortunate event that changes Gen X. I think that there is an evac from it, and I think that that evac causes life to be given to Dave and to Cece. I think that she was purposely not put into that light because they didn't want that stigma and that association. Now I'm thinking over it. Okay, I'm actually going to delete my thought, because if they wanted that, they would have put her. Would want to put her into more of a underdog role, climbing up from unfortunate circumstances or whatever.
And and also, I do want to point out, Rachel and Cece both did vote for different people at Tribal, so maybe it could have been.
That was another point.
Yeah, so we just don't know, and it's frustrating to not get that. Okay, Alicia, you wanted to comment, and I think everyone did. So
I did.
Oh, okay, Alex. Then maybe I confused the two of you.
Yeah,
Alex, go ahead.
I think the same editor was responsible for this episode as the premiere episode of Cal Wrong, where Darnell went home for some reason, even though they were building up Alicia. Alicia to be the boot. So I think this is just the new Edgic trend, where they just, they just edit people who get votes out of the first episode.
I guess, I mean, that could be it. So does anyone have any other comments they want to make about that voting block before we move on? In that voting situation, because we just don't know, and that's so frustrating for us to not know, because people listen to us for expertise and knowledge, but we don't have it right now. So
yeah, I'll just say that a quick remedy is clearly I think that there's a storyline that's going to play out that is going to explain a lot of this first episode voting block that is just we just didn't, it hasn't happened yet. So, because they don't just look at it episode by episode, they kind of go back and they see how things develop, and they edit that way to sort of match up how things develop.
And I mean, hopefully, I think all we can do now is just pray that we don't get another season where people get almost no confessionals. However, besides that Gen X little cluster of voting, I think the editing overall tonight was pretty good. Would you guys agree?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting a bunch of yeah. guys. Okay, so we are going to move on once I figure out how to unmute Ben. Give me just 1 second.
I did it first.
Okay, he did it first. Okay. I was going to say once we figure out how to unmute Ben. Anyways, here's the next thing we're going to do, viewers and listeners. Every single season, we have a contest amongst the panelists to pick a winner, and the person whose winner pick gets the furthest wins a whole bunch of stuff. Now, in honor of this being Survivor Millennials versus Gen Xers, your age is going to dictate what prize you get. Ty and Billy Garcia are both really, really, really old. So if they win, they're going to get a whole bunch of tapioca pudding and Pop Rocks and a whole bunch of other Gen X stuff.
Damn.
Now,
A Walkman.
And a Walkman as well. And a Walkman as well. So Walkman, tapioca pudding, Pop Rocks.
Oh my God, Pop Rocks are the best.
Hold on, but if one of us millennials wins, we get ADD medicine. All right, those are the prizes this season.
I'm a therapist, and you're trying to peddle off drugs to someone.
Anyways, now that one might change depending on whether or not I can get the ADD medicine. It might just be a whole bunch of Bud Light gear that Alicia still has from last season.
Yeah. So what Colin means to say is that all of us millennial party people are going to enjoy a magical bounty.
ADD medicine and what's that thing? Like in mescaline. And bath salts.
Wait, so now we're mixing the ADD medicine with beer?
Oh,
like, you know our generation.
We know our generation. Okay.
Also,
yeah, if we're gonna do beer, if we're gonna do beer, then us Gen Xers get Colt 45.
That's true. Gen X get Colt 45. We get Pabst Blue Ribbon because we drink that for some reason now.
Ew, Colin.
No, I don't drink it. Kids my age drink it because we're stupid. So anyways, here I was going to pick.
Because it's cheap.
It is cheap. Here's how this is going to work, viewers and listeners. We used a random number generator to pick who's going to get go first. They're going to pick someone who is going to move down the list. But that's not it. If you are listening to this podcast, type the name of someone who you think is going to win in the comments right now. Because guess what? You will automatically be entered into our listeners contest. And the way the listeners contest works is exactly the same. Keep submitting people, and the person who makes it the furthest wins. And let's say you pick Jessica, and Jessica's voted out. Guess what? As long as another survivor is available, you can come back in and pick someone else.
You can will your pick to another person.
Yeah, you can basically
Colin.
Basically, if you pick someone, and let's say I pick Jessica, and Jessica gets voted out, and there's still 3 other survivors available, I can go back and pick one of those other ones also.
Yeah, so but that basically just means no one has to pick anyone until Final Tribal Council.
Oh, you're right. That's really okay.
And
so
also, more importantly, only winners get trophies, Colin.
Yeah,
I'm being self to millennial because I'm trying to give too much stuff to our viewers and listeners. Okay, viewers and listeners, you only get 1 pick, but make it quickly because it's first come, first serve. And on the Facebook page and in the comment box, I'm going to keep a running tally of who's picked who. So you will always know who's available. And right now, everyone's available. So viewers, listeners, say survivors below, enter this contest so you can win free stuff. But Billy, you get first pick this season. Who are you picking and why?
I'm picking Ken because I think he's this season's Troyzan, but I don't see there being anybody that would derail him as far as like a Kim, who's a master game player. So I think a Troyzan type of player would win this season, and that's why I like Ken.
All right, pretty good. Elise, you're next.
Okay.
Oh, if any of y'all, hold on. If any of you pick Hannah, don't.
I'm not picking Hannah, Colin.
Okay.
I am picking Mari. She's on my fantasy team. I love her.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm just. And when she was talking about how it's like, this Survivor's like a game, I was dying. So,
it's the game of games, which I kind of agree with her. Well, Charlie McDennis is the game of games. This is a close second, though. All right, Ty, you're next.
Damn it. I don't know. It's the only person I really wanted is gone. I will go with Adam.
All right. Adam seems like he could be a good dark horse.
Kind of
Alicia, come on, you're the co-host.
Wait, no, I just didn't hear who he said.
Oh, Adam. And you're next, Alicia.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm next?
Yeah.
Oh, thank God. So I just said in the side chat that I only know one other player's name right now, so I'm picking her.
Okay.
I really kind of relate to Michelle. I think she's gonna kind of work her like Christian angle, kind of like JT, the good old boy from the South, like work that honest, like trustworthy. But I think she's got some game savvy behind those like innocent eyes, and so I like it. I dig her, and she's she's in with both the Freaks and Geeks and the Triforce, so I like that. I think she could go far.
And Billy asked who's picking Dave. The answer is Alex probably is, right? Alex, you're gonna pick Dave?
I'm gonna lay off of that, but like, okay, I'm gonna stick behind my fantasy team, which, for those of you who aren't aware, was randomly picked, and I'm gonna go with Zeke.
Zeke, okay. And I'm next, and I'm picking Hannah because she's the best person that's ever lived. Okay. Actually, let me finish. She's the best person to ever play Survivor.
God,
the
dude,
best
come
person
agree with
to ever live.
Aubrey.
All right. Steven, you're next.
Oh God, I wanted Ken, and then I wanted Mari, so.
And you're not getting Hannah.
Yeah, I know. Well, I don't. Hannah's not my girlfriend. That's Mari. I've had a crush on her since middle school. But anyway, oh my God, damn, random.org.
All right.
You are freaking
Do
out.
it.
I'm pulling a David.
This is like the biggest decision of your life, Steven.
Like
so
David gets rattled by everything that I do. But anyway, I'm gonna pick.
Billy wants you to pick Taylor.
No, I have Taylor on my fantasy team, and I don't.
Wait, no, I thought Ken was Fabio part 2. No, that was Taylor.
Taylor is Fabio.
That was Tails.
Steven,
Okay.
Taylor. He's Tails now. Steven, make your pick.
Okay, I'm gonna go with. I guess Chris.
Second try picking someone else. Okay, Chris.
Chris?
Yep. All right, Ben, it's now up to you.
So the person who I'm going with is like someone that like impressed me with their authoritative nature. I think that she really took ownership of situations. I think that she's going to do really well, so I'm going to pick Rachel. And by that, I mean that I'm going to go with my hometown boy, Bret, if it wasn't picked yet.
Actually, and I did want to say, I'm actually worried that it's Bret or Paul that has the heart attack.
That was my thought too. But honestly, who else are you going to choose on in this game?
Yeah.
Because honestly, nobody else is desirable.
Well, that's actually something we talked about in the preseason of this, is that this is a really weird cast in terms of most times you see a Survivor cast and there's like 3 people that you're like, they're amazing, they're going to win. This time around, you immediately see everyone's flaws. So it should make for a really interesting game.
I was going to pick Cece for my little stepsister because that's her favorite, I've discovered. But I was like, oh, she's not going to win as much as
she's not. But we don't know who's going to win. Yeah.
Did we talk about Cece?
Yeah, we talked about Cece.
We talked about her a bit. I love her.
I might have been booted during that time.
Yeah, I think you were booted. We voted Alicia out for not knowing about Rupert's shelter earlier, in case you guys didn't know. Right. So I want to thank everyone for joining us. I want to thank Alex, Alicia, Ben, Elise, Steven, Ty, and of course Billy Garcia. And I want to thank everyone out there for listening to us. And be sure to check in with us next week. I'm actually probably not going to be here next week. She has something she wants to say, but can she say it? Wow, I said I'm not going to be here, and Ben said praise. Thank you.
And I was raising the roof because that means I will be your host next week.
Wow, the hostess with the mostest.
But anyways, I will see all of you guys in 2 weeks, and thank you so much for listening. And like I said, subscribe and put your winner picks below in the comment box. I want to give away free stuff. Alicia says it's all in her apartment, and I really want to give people ADD medicine, ironically. Thank you guys so much, and have a great one. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.